action up in double time. James analyzing every line. Paul's out of sync, but they don't care. Three minds tangled, but they're always there.
Hello, welcome to Seismic Cinema. This week's podcast episode is featuring the film Reservoir Dogs from 1992. I'm James. I probably written an essay on it. Paul hasn't actually seen this film, even though he usually watches it in the wrong order. And Colin,
I hadn't seen it.
so you've not seen it, and neither has Paul, which absolutely shocks me. To be fair, it's expected by you, to be fair. But at least thought Paul would have seen it. But hey ho, only found out about an hour ago.
Well, you just never know, do you?
You never know. That's it. And I'm looking forward to actually hearing your thoughts on it, because it is a classic, and I hope you enjoyed it. But anyway, we'll come to that. Just before we get started, folks, you just to kind of shout out to where you can find us. You can get us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Blue Sky, and the Facebook pages, community, and the main page. You can watch and listen to us on YouTube. We're sitting at 181 subscribers. So since the release of The Accountant, we've managed to nab two subscribers. So thank you very much for that, folks. Also gets on Spotify for creators, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music, and Castbox, and probably other places as well. We're also part of the Podpack Collective, which is a bunch of indie podcasters trying to make the indie scene a better place. You can go and check them out on Twitter, and you can go and kind of see what tickles your fancy there. I don't really know who's on the Podpack Collective nowadays, but you can go and check them out and see.
I'm sure Paul would have told us if there was any big changes.
I mean, I don't mean to say ignorant on that, but I don't have the mental capacity to keep up in the chats. So Paul does a good job behind the scenes.
I used to do it, but it was like an everyday thing. It was just another thing to do in the day.
I know, mate. I struggled to keep on top of my own fucking group chats, never mind anything else, do you know what I mean? But also we shout out to What's the Script podcast, the Glaswegian film podcast. Is the police in the background are coming for Colin? Oh, okay.
It's quite fitting for the film we're reviewing, isn't it?
Aye, I suppose it is, mate. Aye, so there, What's the Script latest podcast episode? Well, the one I listened to recently was There's Something About Mary, but they have released another one today, which I've not get around to checking out. But if you like Glasgow banter film reviews, then go and check them out. Okay. On to us then, mate. So it's been a week, which is good going for us, mate, actually, because obviously we've had a few scheduling conflicts in the past and things, so hopefully we start to get a wee bit of momentum going. But it has been a week, and if you remember correctly, I did set you a challenge, or you set yourself a challenge, and I want to ask you, what have you been watching since the last time I've seen you?
So I think I told you I finished Shrinking, didn't I? Because you made your wee joke.
Hey!
About it being a small show. So I've moved on from that. Absolutely loved that show. Would highly recommend it. I've started watching The White Lotus season 1.
You said they're going to watch that. Who's that?
I've only watched the first episode. I've not had a particularly busy week consumption wise. Had yet more birthdays in the family. It's a very busy June. I obviously watched Reservoir Dogs for the review, and if I'm being completely transparent, I totally failed on my weekly challenge. However, I plan to watch it after the podcast if I'm not too tired tonight. So didn't quite get to watch Titan, the documentary about the submersible at the Titanic wreck, but I do hope to watch it this weekend, even if I'm a wee bit late.
Aye. Well, that's a yellow card, mate. That's a yellow card, and yellow cards are taking it forward, so you might miss the next match.
It's been a very busy week, but only a couple more weeks, and then it's the summer holidays. Well, one more week and a bit.
That does. I've heard good things about the Titanic thing, so I'm going to plan on watching it myself. Actually,
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
For me, I watched finished the show You on Netflix. I know you're going to watch it. I won't spoil it for you. It was interesting, shall we say? So I'll say that. Whether I enjoyed it or not, I'm not really sure. There was good and bad episodes, but I'll leave it at that. I, for one, did pass my challenge. I watched Accountant 2, and I very much enjoyed it, mate, to be honest with you. Not as good as the first one, but it was good. I enjoyed it. It's a little bit, not as much focusing on the kind of the accountant part of him. Do you know what I mean? But when you got that story and how he became one, whatever. But I think the second one is good. And you said last week they've kind of planning on doing a third one. So
yeah,
I would advise you to check it out, mate, if you can.
Yeah, sorry for being a failure, but things will be easier, I'm sure.
No, it's fine. Like I say, you're a yellow card, mate. So we'll just see how things progress.
Not a blue card, sin bin? No.
Nah, no, an orange card maybe. I don't know, Mr. Orange. Is that then? You just those shows you were saying, aye?
Yeah, not a busy week, but I tend to watch most of my stuff at the weekend, to be honest, because I can stay up that wee bit later, you know.
Aye,
Have a wee bit more extra time.
aye. And of course, I watched Reservoir Dogs as well for the podcast. So add that to the collection of viewing. Right, okay. So let's get into it then. Reservoir Dogs, as I said at the start in the intro, it was released in 1992. What age were you in 1992?
1.
Cool. I was 7. And I didn't see it until probably I was in. I'll come to that bit. Director Quentin Tarantino. The screenplay was by Quentin Tarantino as well, and a guy called Roger Avery. The cast was Harvey Keitel, Tim Roth, Michael Madsen, Chris Penn, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Tierney, Quentin Tarantino, Edward Bunker. I think they're all the main players in the film.
I had one more name written down. Kurt Baltz, which was Marvin the cop.
Aye, the cop. I couldn't find his name, but I would add him in.
I had the same list as you because I like to just remind myself of the actors and the character names.
Aye.
But that was almost the same.
To be fair, it was a bit of an earache trying to get his name.
I get it.
Yeah, good. I was hoping you got it. Runtime for the film was 1 hour 45 minutes. The IMDb rating was 8.3. Rotten Tomatoes critics was 90%, and the viewer audience of Rotten Tomatoes was 94%. So pretty good scores all round. Stupidly, I didn't get the budget, so I failed in that part. But I'm sure it took in quite a lot. I'll get it as we go, and I'll kind of chip in with it. So, before I go into your history of the film, which I know you haven't seen it, so I'll go into it in a second. But did you get any trivia for the film?
Yeah, but although I haven't seen this, I thought I'd maybe just touch on the Tarantino films I have seen just to set the scene a wee bit.
Aye, sure.
So I have seen a few of them, not like all of them, although I probably should just work my way through them because I do tend to quite enjoy them. I've seen Kill Bill, not seen it in a few years, but I remember enjoying that. Pretty sure I've seen Django Unchained around about the same time. Obviously, I've seen Pulp Fiction because we've reviewed that before. And now this. There may be others, but I think they're the main ones I've seen.
Aye. There's quite a few kind of striking parallels to Pulp Fiction in this film.
Yeah.
Which I go into.
I noticed that when we were going through it. So yeah, I do have a few bits of trivia. So there's obviously the big conversation about the Madonna song at the start of the film.
Uh-huh.
And apparently Madonna refuted their interpretation of the song. So she said that wasn't what it was all about. But she did give them a signed album in return with a wee message to them. So Madonna did get back to them about that. The second bit of trivia I had was that's why I mentioned Kirk Baltz, aka Marvin. He actually asked if he could ride in the trunk of the car during filming, so he could like kind of get himself in that mindset. And apparently, they purposely went over potholes, and they also went through a Taco Bell drive-through with him in the boot of the car.
All right, fair those. That's a dedication to the role.
Method acting. Other ones, it's been said that this film's in the top 10 heist movies, even though you don't actually see the heist in question. And Tarantino thought that was quite amusing. Tim Roth, he refused to read, like, kind of audition for the film, but then he went out drinking with Tarantino, and then when they were drunk, he eventually agreed to kind of audition for the film. And this bit was interesting just when you were talking about Pulp Fiction. So Tarantino has actually confirmed that Mr. Blonde, Vic,
Yeah,
and Vince from Pulp Fiction, John Travolta's character, he actually said that they're brothers.
aye.
And he was planning to do a prequel movie that was like a prequel to both Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, but that the actors Michael Madsen and John Travolta kind of became too old, so they decided to shelve it. But it was actually interesting because I was thinking about Pulp Fiction at quite a few points of the movie.
Aye, well, like that's one of the things I was going to talk about. You know, Vincent and Vic being brothers. But it's a shame they couldn't do that. It'd been quite fun to see a kind of prequel movie. All that kind of and behind it, and that'd be good.
Or just like a kind of team up movie sort of thing, like kind of mashup.
Aye, anything.
Is Vic mentioned even like does Vince's brother get referenced in Pulp Fiction? I can't remember if that's a thing.
I can't remember. I don't think so. I would have remembered that, I think.
It'd be pretty cool if he was though.
I think I would have remembered that. Aye, it's quite interesting. Right, okay. So if that's all your trivia, mate, we'll kind of move on then. So I didn't get any trivia. That was your job this week. So, history of the film, mate. Like I say, you haven't seen the film until now, of course. Had you heard of it though?
Yeah. Aye, I was aware of it.
Aye.
I didn't really know what it was about, but I'd heard the name like over many years.
Because I remember doing the Pulp Fiction episode when we did it, and again, like you just kind of rhymed off a little bunch of films there. I wasn't really sure if you said at that point that you had heard of the film. But aye.
Nah, it's one that's kind of name checked in other films and TV shows and stuff as well.
Aye, it's kind of pop culture type thing, isn't it? For myself, I seen this when I was during school, kind of maybe getting into uni. Do you know what I mean? Like, as I was kind of going through my kind of film, kind of list of films I had to see. Do you know what I mean? So I was going through that, and it was one of the ones I purchased when I was in HMV buying DVDs for fun back in the day. So I seen it a while ago, about that age, and then maybe once or twice after that, and then obviously for this. So I've got a good history with it. When I do tend to go back and watch every so often, just because I enjoy the film.
can see that.
Okay. Right, so the synopsis of the film, for those who haven't seen the film, obviously we're going to go over the film in extensive detail. There will be spoilers, but for those, again, who haven't seen it and want reminded, the synopsis of the film is a group of thieves assemble to pull off the perfect diamond heist. It turns into a bloody ambush when one of the men turns out to be a police informer. As the group begins to question each other's guilt, the heightening tensions threaten to explode the situation before the police step in. Like this film itself, mate, like there's a lot of kind of themes in the film anyway, but the film itself isn't actually a crime film, even though it's kind of centered around a diamond heist. But the film itself isn't about the crime taking place. It's kind of about the trust and the loyalty that kind of fall in with all the people who, again, they don't really know each other. So I found that interesting as well.
Yeah, because when I was going into it and it said about the diamond heist, I was like, I've seen films about diamond heist before. Like how much different can you make it? But I think the way they approached it and the way they structured the film made it stand out.
Aye, definitely. And of course, as in true Tarantino style, it was the kind of the Pulp Fiction element of the non-linear aspect of it. Obviously, you're used to that now because you've seen a few maybe Quentin Tarantino films before. Did you expect it for this film? Probably.
I didn't really have any preconceptions because I hadn't seen it, but I wasn't like surprised when it started jumping about the timeline because like it does have that Pulp Fiction feel like the whole way through, really. So it was quite easy to follow. I actually thought it was easier to follow than Pulp Fiction in terms of when things happened. I think it was a bit simpler in structure.
I know what you're saying, mate. Especially when it comes to it gives you the kind of transition moments of the radio playing in the background as well, and you've got obviously the title of when we meet certain people for the first time, and or when we should have met them for the first time.
Yeah,
enjoys together in the middle. That's good. It's good.
Because you basically start before the heist, and then it goes to the end, and then you do some flashbacks, and then you go back a wee bit, and then there's the end. If that makes sense.
Aye. No, I enjoyed the non-linear aspect of it. I'm just gonna go kind of through the scenes here, mate, because like I don't think in this film, mate, there's any kind of dead space in it. I think every scene is very important. There's one particular scene. There's two, in fact, particular scenes. I do want to go into in great detail. The first being the kind of the diner scene that we start. So we've got the film kind of opens up, and it's the kind of the gang. What do you call them that? They're kind of having breakfast or brunch or something like that, and it's they're talking away, as you mentioned before, talking about kind of Madonna's song "Like a Virgin," and they want to know the kind of the meaning behind it. It's kind of arguing back and forth, but not arguing like maliciously. It's kind of banter into it. What was your take on that whole scene, mate, at the start, where they're on their suits? It's right before the heist taking place, as we get to see.
Well, first of all, I like the cold opening. I do like when a film just drops you right into the middle of a conversation or a situation, and it just gets you right into it from the off. I think you can also be forgiven at that stage for thinking they are just a group of old friends that are meeting up for food or for coffee. Like there does seem to be a good rapport between them, and some of them in particular kind of wind each other up, but you obviously find out that some of the group did know each other beforehand.
Aye, because as we see it as a viewer, we kind of see it as if they are kind of just pals, kind of hanging about. Do you know what I mean? Having breakfast and things.
Yeah.
It's not as if Well, I'd say that there's two people in particular that kind of stand out here. Not really taking part in the kind of conversations that happen, but I mean, you would just think that they're just a group of pals, having a bit of banter on that. So it was good that way because we kind of lured into a kind of false sense of I don't know, security there, where we just think that they're all pals, but really when we find out they're no, and some are, some aren't, and they're in there to do a job, and they're all calling each other their names, which was interesting because again, like you say, we don't know how their names came about. We're just kind of dropped into a scene, and we're just taking it on face value that that's their names at that point in time. So before I go into kind of my kind of foreshadowing alert here, Mr. White, Harvey Keitel, Mr. Pink, Steve Buscemi, Mr. Blonde, Michael Madsen, Mr. Orange, Tim Roth, Joe, who is played by Lawrence Tierney, and we've got Nice Guy Eddie, who's Chris Penn. Who, well, I want to guess Mr. White is your favourite character since that's your screen name, of course. But is he your favourite character in the film?
I would say so, yeah. I liked the fact he's actually seemed like a half decent guy. Obviously, he did take some cops out as part of the heist, but he seems like a really loyal guy, and he was very protective and kind of caring towards Mr. Orange. He regretted it maybe at the end, but I thought he just seemed like a decent guy. And I thought what was interesting about this is, despite what they do for a living, I felt there was quite a lot of humanity within the group towards each other, because you also get the scenes with like Joe and Vic as well, where there's like kind of positive relationships there. Just before we move on from the start of the film, I thought I'd just like to discuss Mr. Pink's view on tips.
Well, I was going to come on to that because it's part of my.
We can wait. We can wait then. I have some views on it as well.
It's part of my foreshadowing. We can go into that there. I did miss out Mr. Brown in as well, who's Quentin Tarantino, and Mr. Blue, who is played by Edward Bunker. So apologies for that.
They're barely in. They're barely in the film.
I know, but still, they're part of the gang heist. So the kind of foreshadowing, and because you touched on that there, mate, regarding Mr. Pink's kind of theory or rant on tipping. So this was kind of like foreshadowed that he's very cynical. He's kind of got a kind of survivor mentality that he doesn't really trust the system or anything like that, and I understand what he's saying, right? He's like, this is what they get paid for. Why are we giving them money? I don't agree with him, right? But it foreshadows the kind of his kind of survival mentality, and and throughout the film as well, he always kind of says like, "Am I the only professional here?" And he says that a few times in the film, which kind of hints that he does what he has to do to survive type thing, because. We know at the end what happens, or does it happen? There's a wee bit of ambiguity there. So on the tipping part, then I'm quite excited to hear your views on Mr. Pink's rant.
He comes across as very rude and very sexist. I don't think he's completely wrong in some regards about the tips, though, because I think, generally speaking, if you're in a restaurant, you've been served food, like the food's brought to you, you would tip. But I don't agree with giving a tip regardless of the service. Because see if you get the wrong food brought to you, or you're sitting waiting for ages, or if the staff are rude to you, I don't think there should be like a divine right to a tip if you've given really shoddy service. So that's my kind of spin on it.
I know what you're saying about like the whole kind of the sexist part of it, but I think, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, at that point in time it was a waitress though, and they spoke about waitresses, and I don't know if it's because it was a waitress. I mean, it could have easily been a waiter, do you know what I mean? And if it was
No,
a waiter.
I'm talking more just generally like whoever's serving me.
Oh,
Like,
I know, I get that. I'll come on to that in a
I
minute
feel
as
like
well.
I feel like there should be a baseline level of like decent service, as in they treat you well and they own up if they make a mistake, that kind of thing. It's a bit like, see, when you buy something off Amazon or eBay,
Uh-huh.
are you really going to spend time giving a review if the product's rubbish or if the service was rubbish? Like you wouldn't spend time giving a positive review anyway.
I think it's different, no, isn't it? Like Mr. Pink did say you wouldn't tip someone at McDonald's because they give you your food. I understand that as well, but I think it's different, isn't it? I mean, nowadays anyway, like you don't have just one waiter or one waitress. I think there's a collection of different people who are coming to serve you. You get maybe people giving you drinks, maybe somebody giving you dinner, and then there's the person coming and making sure that you're all right and all that malarkey. Do you know what I mean? I think you're not.
I bet you love it when people ask you if you're all right when you're eating food.
I don't mind it.
By the way, do you know who you reminded me of?
Who, Mr. Pink?
Roy Keane. Do your job.
Aye. That's funny. I was actually thinking that myself. Aye. That's true.
So yeah, generally speaking, you tip people, but if you go somewhere in the service, like we've all had experiences where we've been to a restaurant and the service has been absolutely awful or the staff have been really rude. Like, I think there are exceptions where you could be forgiven for not. That's just my take.
Would you? I mean, to the extent where you don't at all. I mean, like, would you not like maybe reduce it?
I think it just depends on the circumstances. Like, see if you were like I've been in places before where you've actually been sitting for like half an hour, 40 minutes, and you've been waiting on a drink or whatever. Or you've been waiting on the bill, and it gets to a point where you actually need to go up and ask for it yourself because you've been sitting there for about half an hour. Like, there are different shades of it, you know.
Okay, mate. I did during that discussion as well. Mr. White made a good point. He said, some of these waitresses take this job because they don't have the qualifications or something along those lines. He said, and it's very true. I mean, if they're not going to qualifications, they go to college or uni or whatever. Then what do they do? Someday actually have to, they get paid what Mr. Pink class is minimum wage, and then anything the tips it all goes towards the kind of the living, doesn't it? I thought that was a good point he made, and then Mr. Pink was quite dismissive at that point as well to say, learn how to type. You know what I mean? Like, as if everybody is smart and is articulate, and I think Mr. Pink is probably the most articulate of them all, and probably more savvy. Hence, what happens at the end. I think he's very kind of reserved and he knows what he's doing. But not everybody has that opportunity like that. So, aye.
I think it's interesting how it was learned to type. Like, being able to type on a laptop or a desktop is just something that pretty much everybody does now, isn't it? But in that kind of timeline, it was something that maybe not as many people did because they didn't have as much access to computers at the time.
Aye, and it all just came to me there because, like, it was in the 70s this was set, and it's like, well, typewriters were a thing then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that he was sexist at that point because office jobs and whatever have you would maybe be predominantly of female staff in there. So maybe it was kind of sexist, kind of in retrospect, thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't agree about any of the career or job related stuff. I was just playing devil's advocate in terms of, like, are there situations where maybe you don't tip if the service is particularly bad?
Colin doesn't tip. Colin doesn't tip. Right, so the other bit of foreshadowing.
I won't be tipping you anyway.
I've got a tip for you. Don't eat yellow snow. Right.
Do your job.
The other bit of foreshadowing was, again, I said there's two people who don't really talk in it. One was Mr. Blonde. He was very quiet, didn't really say much. As well, it kind of hints at a kind of more kind of sinister vibe. And we've got Mr. Orange, who's probably a wee bit more kind of reserved because he's trying to work out people at that point, because he obviously he's the spoiler alert, he's the copper in amongst them, and he's just trying to kind of work out what's happening, and he's got a wee bit of a kind of nervous energy about him. So if you kind of watch that back and see, you do see that.
Tim Roth was in Pulp Fiction, wasn't he?
No, don't think so.
I think he was. Was he not the guy? Or am I thinking of somebody else? I thought he was the guy. You know how like the beginning's the end of Pulp Fiction.
Oh, he was. You're right. Aye, he was. You're right.
Restaurant.
Aye, Honey Bunny and
yeah, I thought it was him.
He was. Aye, you're right.
That's interesting. I wonder if that's the same character. He's undercover there as well. What was quite interesting, there was a scene when Mr. Orange, Tim Roth, was talking about Fantastic Four.
Aye, that's right.
And it's quite funny because he's obviously in the Marvel. Like, he's in Incredible Hulk and another film as well, maybe the new Captain America. He's in that kind of side of the MCU.
That's right, so he is. He also had that Silver Surfer poster on his wall as well. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I spotted that. Yeah, I watched that when I was a kid. I just thought it was quite interesting. He had a Marvel reference when he is a Marvel actor.
Aye.
That's foreshadowing.
Well, in 1992, who knows what he knew what he was going to go and do.
Yeah. Aye. Oh, can I just slide in my one Star Wars reference while I'm here?
Aye, okay.
There was a Wilhelm scream when they were running. They were running away from the heist.
That's right. Aye.
Somebody got knocked over in the street, and I heard it.
Right. Okay. So, again, we cut from that scene, and you can see the aftermath of the kind of heist. We see a kind of very Pulp Fiction-y kind of scene where we've got the car and we've got the guy in the back bleeding to death. He's being shot. So Mr. Orange has been shot. He's in the back seat. He looks like he's gone. Mr. White, who's driving, which I find quite funny as well, because Mr. White was the one in Pulp Fiction who helped clean the car and all that sort of stuff. In this film, it's obviously the opposite. It's a bloody mess.
The actor.
Huh?
The actor.
Ah, he's in Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, what's his name? What's the character's name? I remember he's the guy they phone up, isn't it? With the
Winston Wolfe. Winston Wolfe. Aye. That's what that is.
Okay, that's interesting.
So that's what that is. So he keeps on kind of reassuring him he's going to be okay, kid, and all the rest of it. You know what I mean? He's kind of it's a very panicky scene, that, and they're going to the warehouse. It's got the kind of rendezvous point and stuff like that, and they basically, he knows he has to go to the hospital, but he can't go to the hospital because what's happened. He's in a very bad way, as Tim Roth. What was your thoughts on that scene, mate? Kind of getting from the heist to the warehouse.
I just thought Mr. Orange was, obviously you would be if you'd been shot. I've never thankfully been shot, but he was being so like dramatic, wasn't he? Just like, I'm dying.
It's a good scene later on as well, mate. He says the same thing.
It's nice that you see the bit before that when he gets shot, I suppose, to kind of link the two scenes together. But I think it did show Mr. White's caring side, which is prevalent throughout the film as well. And it shows that kind of bond that's building between them, even though they don't actually, again, know each other or really know each other.
Aye. And because the way it's obviously structured, the film, we don't really see that kind of bond happening before that. It's kind of like a kind of father-son kind of dynamic where it's like, oh, he always calls him kid, and it's always like, he's looking at filming things. He trusts him 100%, and it is quite a nice that dynamic between those two. It was quite good. It was quite nice to see that. But obviously, we know the job went wrong because it's absolute pandemonium, and we just need to kind of find out what happens there. But interestingly as well, I thought the cameras kind of shots in the car with a kind of handheld camera were good as well, because we could see the the blood on the shirt of Tim Roth, Mr. Orange, and the camera's actually shaking as well. Do you know what I mean? Like we're on the journey with them, so it was interesting shots.
It was very like red blood, wasn't it? Because blood's not really that red. It's normally more like dark red, isn't it?
It was very crimson-like. I thought it was like. So it kind of adds to the imagery, didn't it?
It worked.
Like,
Should have been orange.
But the blood, you think you lost a lot of blood in the car, but as the film goes on, man, it's the blood is absolutely everywhere, especially in the warehouse as well. He just puddles it. You think, how's the guy still alive?
They should have had Harry Keitel change into his wolf persona and clean the car up.
Aye. Yeah.
BRB.
Aye, so they get to the warehouse, man, and obviously he's trying to reassure him and all that sort of stuff, and he kind of lies him in the corner of the warehouse, and then we get Mr. Pink who kind of comes in. He's very animated, shall we say, and he's already shouting and kind of raging that it's always a setup, and you think somebody's kind of talked to the police, and there's an informant, there's a cop in there. Like, how did they know? And they're all trying to kind of work out, what happened. It comes a point where they're both kind of like holding guns to each other's heads type thing. It was again that idea of trust. That's what kind of we don't really trust MD here. They don't trust each other. They're trying to kind of work out if they are good or no. And it comes to the point where Mr. Pink basically blames Mr. Orange that he is the cop, or he knows somebody who is a cop, and he's ratted on them. And at that point in time, we've got Mr. White saying, no, it don't be that. If he's took a bullet for us, do you know what I mean? Look at him, he's dying, and I think he would be doing that if he took a bullet, if you know what I mean, if he was a cop or whatever. So it's all kind of working in his favour, not to be kind of outed quite early. But at this point in time, we hear that Mr. Blonde went absolutely berserk in the shop and started shooting folk for fun. And we don't see Mr. Blonde for a while yet, but he's kind of labelled as a psychopath, Mr. Blonde, because he's obviously just shooting people for fun, and it was the kind of part of the plan type of thing.
Yeah, but it's interesting because see when you see him in the flashback when he's talking to Joe and Eddie, he actually comes across as all right. Like, he seems like you obviously don't know why he ended up in jail, but it was probably something to do with stealing diamonds in the past. But he actually comes across as like a decent enough guy. But when you see him in the warehouse later on, he's got a kind of different look in his face that he has gone a bit mad, you know.
Aye. We come on that scene, but I think in the warehouse, like, they don't know what's happening in there. They don't know what happened to the heist. We certainly don't know what happened to the heist because we didn't see the heist. We weren't there at that point in time. So we're basically in the same position as them because they don't know what happened or how things got to come about, and neither do we. So we don't know how to believe either. So it was really well worked out how it came about, mate. Do you know what I mean?
They change their minds quite a lot as well. Like, they go from not trusting any of them, and then suddenly Mr. Pink saying that he's like, Mr. Blonde's too nuts to team up with the police. Like, he's definitely telling the truth, that kind of thing. So they do change their minds quite a lot.
Aye, that's what they're just trying to work out who would be most kind of susceptible to giving information. Do you know what I mean? And that's about the kind of trying to establish who to trust. Which obviously Mr. White trusts Mr. Orange, and that's what kind of led to his downfall a wee bit. Do you know what I mean? We kind of get a few flashbacks as well. We get a flashback to Mr. White. So this is kind of the first of them before the heist, where kind of Joe, the kind of boss, if I call him that. He's the one trying to recruit people to take part in the diamond heist. It kind of turns out we've got they two kind of know each other, don't they? Mr. White and Joe.
I think they were like old friends. It said.
Aye. So they've always, like you say, they've worked in heists or robbery before, and they say that he's been part of armed robbery. So he's like a kind of trusted person. You know what I mean? We kind of see as well, like from that, we do kind of see that Mr. White is somebody that we kind of want to attach ourselves to, because we've seen from the previous scenes that he's that kind of father figure. He's kind of the kind of puts the arm on the shoulder type of person. Do you know what I mean? He's a professional, so we believe, and he's quite calming in that way. Do you think he was quite like that, kind of calming and reassuring?
Yeah, obviously I got drawn in by him, hence my username. I think he'd be quite a good man manager.
Aye.
Like Russell could get him on his coaching staff.
He's got morals as well. Do you know what I mean? Like even going back to the Tim scene, he's obviously defends that. Do you know what I mean? He has got his morals, even though he is a bad person. He is a killer at the end of the day, but he does, I think, know right and wrong at certain times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's what made the characters in this film interesting, because they weren't all bad or all good. They were really in the grey. I think I knew why Mr. Pink was so annoyed at the warehouse scene. It was because he had to give the tip at the start of the film against his better judgment. Yeah.
Aye. So Mr. Blonde comes back, and he's just kind of he's watching for afar, drinking a milkshake or something like that.
That's pretty cool, isn't he?
He's no bothered at all. He's no bothered at all. Do you know what I mean? He's just kind of watching from afar, and he's basically, I think at this point they've got the guns to each other's heads, and he says, I think the quote is, "You kids shouldn't play so rough." Do you know what I mean? Like that's quite cold itself. Do you know what I mean? I think it's quite ironic to the fact as well, because later on in the film we'll come on to it, that, you know, I don't think he has boundaries. So that to him was the rough. Do you know what I mean? Even though he says that.
I'm looking forward to getting to this scene.
Aye. So, I mean, he turns up, they go mental, call him a psychopath and the rest of it. Do you know what I mean? It was a good wee scene here as well, because I think it was here anyway. He's sitting on top of something, and he's basically going, "You're a psychopath," blah blah, and he turned it into a bloodbath, blah, and he's like clapping him, and he's sarcastically clapping as well. Do you know what I mean? It was at that point in time, because we didn't see the actual heist itself, we don't see that kind of part of how malicious he can be. So I kind of, at that point, I was like, he's pretty cool, that guy. Do you know what I mean? I quite like him. But obviously things take a very big twist, and in return we don't really like him. What is your take at Mr. Blonde?
Well, I said earlier in the flashback, it came across quite well. He'd obviously made mistakes and served his time, but he seemed quite grateful and seemed to have a good relationship with Joe and Eddie.
Aye, it's kind of like
family.
It's like the family. It's like
as you said,
sorry, Colin. It reminded me of the kind of Sopranos type thing. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, I've done time for you, and welcome back, and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Now he comes across okay there, and you obviously only hear about him like shooting up the cops. You don't really know the full story of what happened, but I think he loses his ability to be redeemed with what he does in the warehouse.
Just a wee bit.
Although
let's come on to it then. Let's get on to it. So probably the most iconic scene in the film. If you speak to them about Reservoir Dogs, this will be the scene that they talk
even
about.
though it was my first time seeing the film, as soon as the music started, I was like, right, this is obviously going to be like a famous scene. Like the scene I remember most from Pulp Fiction was when was it Vince? Remember he went to the dancing with the guy's wife.
Aye.
And they're dancing in the kind of pub restaurant. That's like probably the bit I remember best, and like the aftermath of that from Pulp Fiction, and it's again it's that music thing, isn't it? I think a lot of the time some of the more memorable scenes have classic songs attached.
Aye, let's say this is the most iconic scene. I think everybody remembers us from this film. Actually, like I love the scene for a number of reasons. I love the scene because of the diegetic music playing. So we've got the radio, again, a very prominent feature of the whole film. It kind of balances the actual realism, like the serious nature of what's happening in the actual film, to kind of jivey music. So it's a kind of contradictory there. But the actual stuck in the middle review is actually quite relevant to this, because the guy who they take from the cop who they take from the heist, take him in the boot and they kind of torture him right now, is actually literally stuck in the middle, because he is in the middle in the warehouse. We've got Mr. Blonde who's there, and we've got Mr. Orange, even though he's pretty much dead. He is in the middle of them both. So that was interesting, that choice of music, choice of song for that. And as well as like the lyrics to the song, I've got it here. So, well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. Like, it's just like the whole song itself, man, is brilliant for that scene. I kind of mentioned there about the diegetic music. So he obviously cuts his ear off, but before that he slashes him while dancing, quite, to the song, as if it's like just that bit of fun to him. Do you know what I mean? He's having a good time. This guy isn't having a good time. He's getting slashed. He gets his ear cut off. He's making jokes about it. But all of this happening, he goes back out to the car. As he's approaching the door, we know the music is playing in the warehouse. It goes off because it's the music's playing in the scene. Gets the gasoline for the car, and then he moves back into the warehouse. And interestingly enough, when he goes back into the warehouse, the lyric that plays is "please," so it's "please," and it's like that's that guy saying like, "Please don't do this." So it's actually like the whole scene's brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
In a way that, for cinematography purpose, I mean, it's brilliant in that way. But obviously, the torture scene, like, I wouldn't like to be in that guy's position at the end of the day. So, tell me what you thought about it then, mate.
Just while it's in my head, so there's another couple of things you could say. Like, I think it's pretty much the middle of the film as well when the song's playing,
right?
In terms of the stuck in the middle, but also he's stuck in the middle physically in the warehouse. Like he's in like the middle of the warehouse, gagged to the chair, tied to the chair with the tape around his mouth. So I felt like that was too extra. Stuck in the middles with you as well.
Aye.
If it is, I'm not going to say it's like, it's a weird one because it's obviously horrific what he does to him, but you can't help enjoying the scene because of the music and the way Mr. Blonde like portrays it as well. Just, and as you said, the bit about the music was clever as well. How it kind of comes on and goes off.
It's a great scene.
It's unexpected as well. Although you do hear them talking about the kind of music of the time. I just didn't expect him to come into that song, which is a really famous song, and do that. Like I didn't really see it coming, if I'm honest.
But
when it came up,
obviously Quentin Tarantino knows what he's doing. Do you know what I mean? But because it was a radio playing in the warehouse, it could have been any song. But that one came on, and it's just he was singing to it as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's hard not to love it because it's such an iconic scene and everything about it. But obviously, it is rubbish what happens to the guy. Do you know what I mean? We don't want to be condoning that. Do you know what I mean? But
it's funny because the scenes on. I quite often play the movie on silent in the background when I'm reviewing, and it's actually he just walked out to get the gasoline to walk back in. Yeah.
It's like finally I've got my alone time here. But even before that, they're like, you can't leave him you can't leave that guy behind. He's a bloody psychopath. Do you know what I mean? He's going to kill him. And as obviously that happens, he puts the gas line over him. He's about to set him on fire. And at the same time, by setting him on fire, he's going to kill Mr. Orange, who's near enough dead anyway. And at this point, we see him getting shot a number of times. Camera turns back, and we've got the Tim Roth, he doesn't look good. Does Tim Roth on that floor? Do you see the colour of him, man? He's like grey.
I'm just watching the bit with the gaslight right now.
Well,
the guy was, see when because he cut his ear off, there's a bit where he like touches something to the side of his head where the ear was.
Aye, because he throws the gasoline on it and it's all do that sting.
Mm-hmm. So it's funny though, because Mr. Orange starts basically saying later on that like you're alive, you might not have your ear, but somebody could untie you and you could go, and he's like, I'm dying here. So they're both in like pretty bad situations, but they're like fighting over who's got the worst one.
Aye, he says like, I've got nobody here. He goes, how'd that look? He starts laughing. I don't know what to tell you. Just kind of starts crying, and it's like, it's a competition of who's worse off, isn't it? It's like, I've got one ear missing. He goes, I'm bloody dying here. Do you know what I mean? Like,
do you ever think Mr. Orange, I know he's like physically looking not great, but it's quite interesting that he hangs on to the end of the film, doesn't he? Like, it's like he's just soaking everything up. Like, he's just listening to every conversation, and he's still doing his undercover bit, even when he's so close to death himself.
Aye. He did say near the end of the film, he's the whole purpose of the whole thing was to get Joe in that warehouse so they could catch him. But I don't know if he was just hanging on until that point. Do you know what I mean? So you could see his job through, type thing.
He still had obviously a wee bit of energy left to fire a few shots.
Aye, so he kills Mr. Blonde. But he looked grey. It was honestly, it was like, wow, he's like a corpse. He was. So after Mr. Blonde meets his demise, you've got the kind of flashback, Mr. Blonde, and we've already covered that. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I won't really go into it, but it was kind of like a kind of family reunion type thing. They all knew each other. Again, one person that Joe could rely on was him, because he'd done time for him and all that sort of thing. See, before I kind of move on to the kind of the closing stages of the film, what was your take on Joe's son?
I think him and Mr. Blonde, that scene when they're play fighting was just a bit weird. Like,
it was weird as well that he called his dad Daddy as well. Like, oh, Daddy's not going to be happy. Oh, Daddy.
Yeah.
That was a bit much.
He was quite a confident guy, wasn't he? And quite sure of himself. He liked to wind up, didn't he? Like him and Blonde, him and Mr. Blonde liked to wind each other up, because that was a kind of theme from the start of the film, because Joe and Mr. White, well, it was actually Mr. White was winding Joe up, wasn't he? But his book or something like that. But there was like, he's in it at the start, Eddie, and he's in the flashback, but he doesn't like rejoin the main group to kind of later on, because he's not actually part of the main heist.
No, he goes because they find out they've kind of took the cop off hostage, and he takes control of the situation, because they've got two cars parked outside. It's too dodgy. People are going to notice that, and that's where we've got Mr. Blonde alone with the copper. But what was I going to say? This flashback took place after Mr. Blonde was shot, so we knew basically how crazy Mr. Blonde was, right? So, see, I was watching it again. I was like, well, they're winding each other up big time here, and we don't know what way this guy's going to go because it looked like that. He was he's kind of play fighting with him and all that sort of thing, but he looked quite kind of sinister when talking to him. Do you know what I mean? I think he just kind of turned like that. Like, watch that again because he was very serious. I don't really see much kind of laughing the same way that maybe Eddie was. Do you know what I mean? But but it was good in terms of it was a like welcome back to the family type thing. Do you know what I mean?
Be interesting to know what Mr. Bloom was in jail for in the first place, although you could probably accurately guess.
Aye, I would.
He needs a
say,
prequel.
Aye, so we find out that Mr. Orange is the copper. And it kind of turns out as well that the Marvin, the guy in the chair, he knows who he is. So Mr. Orange his name's Freddie. And he's like, how do you know who I am? He's like, oh, I met you before, and like people must know me, look up to him, whatever, do you know what I mean? Whereas Miss Orange, Tim Roth is a wee bit kind of too involved with maybe his job to notice the kind of the finer details because he was just a uniform. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know how true that is. Like, do you remember people's names if they're beneath you type thing? Do you know what I mean? In the police, I don't know, but
not like beneath you as such, but like we've both probably worked with people who were maybe not there for very long.
aye,
You know, maybe they're like supply staff, or maybe they were just there for like a really short fixed term contract or whatever. Like, there's a pretty good chance that you wouldn't maybe recall someone 10 years from now that was a supply teacher with you for like a couple of weeks. Do you know what I mean?
aye. But I just thought that this kind of scene when we were talking about it, it was fairly recently. I could be wrong, mate. Do you know what I mean? But you're right. I mean, we don't. As good as we try to be, we don't tend to remember everybody's names. Do you know what I mean? In the best possible.
That's why I write them down.
In your bad handwriting. Sorry. Right.
It was interesting, just an aside. I've got a
Aye, there you go.
Oh, sorry, there was a slight lag there, I think. I've got a picture from my wedding with my kind of groomsmen and best men, and I've got a black and white version of it, and I'm pretty sure someone commented Reservoir Dogs on it because we had shades on and everything. But I obviously hadn't seen it at the point, so when I watched the film and I saw like the wee scene near the start where they're kind of walking together, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense now. So I was aware of that image of like the group of guys with like the suits and the shades and stuff.
Aye. Actually, I didn't actually refer to that actually because it's a great tune. Little Green Bag. Is the name of the song.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a song you refer back to Reservoir Dogs.
There's another good song in the movie as well. It's one that was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mate, if I was going to put money on you, would say that.
Ooh cha cha cha, ooh cha cha.
I knew when I say that.
Hooked on a Feeling, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Hooked on a Feeling.
Aye. And Guardians was like, guy, he's going to mention Guardians of the Galaxy here.
Great tune.
Aye. So that'll kill us on then to a good kind of segue into Mr. Orange because that song comes on when he's obviously jumped in the car with Mr. White and Eddie to kind of get prepared for the heist and stuff like that, and the cops, the song's playing inside the cop's car, who's following them. See, like, what did you think of the whole kind of, because Mr. Orange had to go undercover for this role. He also had to be an actor because he had to kind of take on a role of, he's got this persona. What did you make of all that scene where he had to kind of prepare lines, and it was good in a way that it was kind of in real time talking to the other copper. He had to be an actor. It took him back to talking to Joe and Mr. White about his experiences. and then it kind of played as he was talking. It gave that story cut into it. What do you make of that, mate?
I think it was important because Mr. Orange was convincing. I didn't suspect him of being the rat, if I'm honest. So I think it was important to show how he got himself into that position in terms of being able to lie and tell the stories. If I'm honest, it wasn't my favourite section of the film. I felt like it maybe went on a wee bit too long because they started talking about certain people in certain situations, and at that point I was like, the rest of the film I managed to track quite easily, but there was parts in this scene where I was trying to like, who are they talking about? Or I understood the purpose of the scene, that they were trying to show how he was able to be convincing as a criminal. But I felt like maybe it went on a wee bit too long at that point in the film. It's just my take anyway.
I mean, there's some flashbacks were longer than others, right? I think this
Mhm.
one maybe was, but
Yeah.
it kind of shows you the. I mean, it's hard. I can't really remember my thoughts when I first seen the film, mate, of that twist that Orange was undercover. I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't remember what I thought. Oh wow, man, I didn't suspect that. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, mate. But obviously I knew because I had seen it before. But it's that kind of way where like it's the kind of dual identity kind of thing where he's the cop versus the criminal and having to switch. Like I couldn't imagine having to like if I was a copper and having to try and be undercover and do that because you're always going to be looking over your shoulder because his actual morals would come into play. Do you know what I mean? You go like, even when we get to the scene where the heist is kind of taking part outside, like obviously they're outside it, and we get the death of a few of them. Mr. White shoots in a car, and you can see Mr. Orange going like, "No, like this is like not what I signed up for." Like
Aye. He
you
killed
see,
the woman, didn't he?
it's like you see his face, like
Aye.
this is like
Yeah.
no what I expected type thing. And it all happened because he Mr. Blonde went rogue. You know what I mean? But
It's hard that because you think of being undercover as just observing the situation, but see if you're actually in a position where you end up killing somebody, like that's in some senses you follow through with it to keep the cover. But at
uh,
what point do you become a criminal yourself, you know?
here's a question for you, mate. Do you think that Mr. Orange actually cared about some of them, like Mr. White? Do you think he actually did care for him?
I think he did.
Yeah.
Because he seems like quite a decent guy. I don't think he cared too much about the other ones, but I don't think the other members, like Mr. Blonde's obviously not particularly lovable. Neither's Eddie. Joe's very kind of hands off. And we don't really see Mr. Blue or Mr. Brown. So I think Mr. White's the only one. Feels like a game of Cluedo, doesn't it?
Aye.
Professor Plum.
Mr. Brown
um,
with the
uh,
candles and the light.
it was Mr. Blonde with the gasoline in the warehouse. Actually, was as well. I think he did probably because I felt like their bond, as we mentioned earlier, I felt like it was quite mutual.
That's the thing,
But
though.
it could have just been an act.
Like I know, and he was a good actor. Do you know what I mean? To the point where he fooled everybody, even Joe. But then later on, Joe's not 100% convinced that he knows he's the rat, right? Whatever. But I think to convince Mr. White, who seems a very kind of veteran in this kind of field, he's kind of won him over, and by winning him over, then you've got everybody else. Do you know what I mean? Because he's like you say, mate, the coach, the kind of manager. Do you know what I mean? Like he's the one everybody listens to, type of thing.
Were you surprised the first time you seen it about who the rat was?
That's what I say, mate. I can't remember my reaction at the time, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I probably was surprised, mate. Like, but it's probably why is because we don't really see him. Like, because we see him in the car. So we see him in the diner. We hardly speaks. We see him in the car that he's obviously dying. We see him in the warehouse. He's just basically lying dead, basically. so he doesn't really have much dialogue in between the things. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so the first kind of instance we see of him, he's shooting Mr. Blonde, and he says, "I'm a cop," and then go, "I know you're a cop," and so I don't know, probably was, but not like pure shock horror type thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, it would have been if you had more dialogue in the film. Like, say for example, if Mr. Pink was a cop, that would be more shocking to me than Mr. Orange.
Yeah. He
Because
was he was able to hide away quite a lot, wasn't he?
aye,
But see when he got up and shot Mr. Blonde,
yeah,
it kind of just twigged with me. I was like, he was obviously going to have a big part to play. Like, see if he wasn't, they'd just let him bleed out, wouldn't they? But he was obviously there because he had, it turns out, another two kind of core purposes to the film.
aye. I mean, if he hadn't been shot, then and Mr. Blonde didn't go mental, then Joe would have been into the warehouse quicker, and the cops would have been there quicker. Do you know what I mean? But
Mm.
everything went awry because we've got Eddie saying that his dad's not happy. He'll be there and all the rest of it. So it just took longer to get to the point where he had to get in there. Do you know what I mean? But aye, it's interesting.
And if you take away the first scene with if you ignore the first scene when they're having their coffee and that, he's actually in the first and the last scene, isn't he? Bleeding, because there's a scene in the car, and then the scene at the very end.
Aye,
So he's obviously there from the very beginning, isn't he?
aye,
So he's kind of hiding in plain sight.
yep. Aye, we get to the point where obviously we've got Eddie coming back with Mr. Pink and Mr. White, and he sees Mr. Blonde shot, and Mr. Orange is just trying to protest, like, Mr. Blonde went crazy. He was going to burn the place down and all that, and he said he was going to take the diamonds and run. And where Eddie goes, no, that's not what he would do because, well, no, Mr. Blonde has been part of like my family. He's done time for us, and we hear that kind of his connection to the family a lot more because he's not aware of that, and so it kind of comes unraveling for him. So it becomes obvious that he's the copper, and it comes to the point where Eddie he pulls a gun on Mr. Orange. At this point, Mr. White's defending him. He's like, he's a good kid and all that. He's like, blah, blah, blah. And so Eddie's got the gun to Miss Orange. And then we've got Mr. White pointing the gun at Eddie. And I think Tim Roth has got the gun as well. Do you know what I mean? So they've all got, it's a kind of Mexican standoff type thing. And then what happens is Mr. White shoots Eddie into it. What happens?
I've obviously only seen that scene once, so I'll take your word for it. Though when I did look up just a wee brief summary of the plot, it said that Joe and Eddie both died, and then Mr. Orange and Mr. White survived to the end.
Aye,
Mr.
Joe Eddie that I both died, but we've got they two died. And we've got White and we've got Orange. Who
Mr. Pink ran away with the diamonds, so he's
Well,
a survivor, isn't he?
well, he obviously didn't take part in that standoff. He was kind of hiding at this point.
Did he not run away?
Well, he had.
Did he not run out the door? No.
No, at this point he had. So when they had the guns pointing to each other, he had big stairs or something like that behind where Mr. Orange was. And then when it unravelled the Mexican standoff, basically, Mr. White was basically with Mr. Orange, and then at that point, Mr. Pink ran out the door, grabbed the diamonds, and then went.
Yeah. Because we forgot to say that the copper got killed by Eddie as well when he arrived.
He just comes in and shoots him. Aye, there was no messing about with him.
He was like, what copper or something like that.
Aye. So that was, and then we've got the moment after the standoff where we've got Mr. White, kind of hugging Mr. Orange. He's like, "Oh,
That seems a bit that seems a bit bizarre as well, isn't it?
he's like, I hope you're prepared to do time, whatever." Do you know what I mean? And then
Can I
Mr. Orange,
cuddle?
he confesses I'm a cop, and it was quite. I don't know. You could kind of sense that it was very heartbreaking for Mr. White. Do you know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
basically he put all his faith and trust in this guy. Do you know what I mean? He was backing him up, doing everything, and he was basically lied to. And he was manipulated to a point where this veteran in the field kind of was fooled. Do you know what I mean? And then that's when the cops come in, and so Mr. White shoots Mr. Orange, and then the coppers shoot Mr. White. We don't really see that happening because it just kind of cuts to black. But we hear the gunshots, and then we just imagine that that's what happened. Because the cops came into the building, and I think they say drop the gun or whatever, and then the gunshots come up. You hear them off screen.
I know. I did look up that bit in terms of like a plot summary because it wasn't really immediately obvious what happened there, just because all you see is Mr. White's face, really.
And what's the one thing I like? Ambiguous endings. Even though it wasn't quite ambiguous, but it was still left to us to guess.
I was going to list off loads of things that you like.
List off loads of things I like.
Manchester United.
I don't like Manchester United.
I know, that was a joke.
Oh, it was a very funny one.
You could be Mr. Red.
Right,
me and Paul, what colours are we?
Well, I would be Mr. Blue.
I'd probably end up Mr. Pink. I'll just go for it.
Paul would be Mr.
Paul dyed his hair blonde once for the football five-a-sides.
Did he?
Mr. Blonde.
I'd put Mr. Purple, even though purple doesn't exist.
I'll go blue or brown because I would get eliminated early in the film.
Well, maybe Paul Mr. Pink. He's a snake. He would do that. That's the end of the film, man. But like I was saying, like at the start, the film isn't about crime as such. It's about the kind of the loyalty, the flawed values of people. Do you know what I mean? Kind of on amongst thieves type of thing. So I actually quite enjoyed that aspect of it, and I actually do like the fact that we didn't see the heist take place. We didn't see a diamond. You know what I mean, I like that.
Yeah, I think if you'd actually just seen them stealing diamonds, like I suppose there's some similarities with this film and Snatch.
Aye.
I preferred this. Don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but I think I prefer Tarantino films to Guy Ritchie films.
Aye, I probably do as well, mate, to be honest with you, but Snatch is a great film.
Yeah, I did prefer this a lot more than Snatch. I found Snatch very confusing. I found this a lot more straightforward in a lot of ways.
Aye.
Even though it still has its complexity. One scene we didn't talk about was when you see Joe giving them all the names.
That's
giving them
right.
their code names. And then Mr. Pink's not happy with it at first, but then I feel like they're all a wee bit scared of Joe at times. Like Mr. Pink backs down relatively easily when Joe's asserting himself.
Aye, definitely. He's like, oh, why is he? Well, they obviously ask him why Mr. Pink, and he gives them the answer to that. But
they ask if he can be Mr. Purple instead. No, you're not being Mr. Purple.
He said, "Oh, can I be Mr. Yellow or something like that?" No, Mr. Yellow's doing another job somewhere else, type thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like he always had an answer for something. Do you know what I mean? He's like, these are nobody's swapping, nobody's changing. That's your names.
Well, something we forgot to mention was, although they've all got their code names, we still kind of learn all their names throughout the film, either through flashbacks or through Mr. White deciding just to divulge the information, because there's that whole scene where he's talking about how Mr. Orange is on his deathbed and he's not going to just telling me can't share that information at that time. So it was quite interesting that a big theme was about the anonymity of the characters, but we do find out quite a lot about them, really, and their names and some of their history.
I'm quite glad. It was good that they wanted to be anonymous throughout the film with each other. But I think it was Mr. White's kind of humanity that kind of came through to actually get to know people. And then as an audience, we want to know as well, like, people's names. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I would have quite liked to have known of to find out the real names. Do you know what I mean? I'd been happy just to go with Mr. Pink, Mr. White, and
No, I liked it because they don't all learn each other's names. We learn their names in the flashbacks. So in this scene, apart from Orange and White, or at least White, they don't know each other's names.
aye,
So that is still protected in the heist.
aye.
But we find out a bit more just from the flashbacks, which I actually like that.
Yeah, I get it. Aye. Right, so before I don't think we were quite on the ball. We asking people for their opinions and views and comments of.
Oh
Reservoir
yeah,
Dogs.
we need to get back to doing that. But
So
we've recorded twice in 2 weeks, so let's get back into that next time.
that's progress. So, what are you going to give the film, mate, out of 10?
Okay. It's always different, isn't it? We always say this, like when you actually talk, like you watch a film for the first time, which is often for me, and then you actually have the discussion. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, I think.
I'm surprised, mate. I think it would have been saying that though. You gave Snatch a 6, I think.
Snatch, as I mentioned, I found it was so fast and just so much going on. Like this was more my level for this kind of film, I would say.
Aye, like 9 out of 10, mate. I'm going to match you, mate, and say 9 out of 10 as well. I think I gave Snatch a 9 out of 10. I can't remember now, but that I do prefer this over Snatch. I do prefer Quentin Tarantino over Guy Ritchie, but I don't want to compare Snatch and this, but this film, like, is again the scenes for the kind of foreshadowing at the start of the film. The flashbacks were all relevant. I think obviously the torture scene was funny and horrible at the same time. Do you know what I mean? I think that was a good kind of mix there of that, and I think that the ending was good because we didn't. Again, it's all about the trust and the loyalty type thing. And the one person who was talking about being professional throughout the whole film managed to get away with the diamonds, which kind of led to the other ones weren't really professional then. But I thought the characters were good as well. Quite liked the fact we didn't see a lot of Quentin Tarantino in the film. I think it was good that he was there, but not a prominent figure. So, like, very much like Pulp Fiction, mate. Do you know what I mean? He was there, and
I was going to say he does more of like a
cameo type thing.
Yeah, cameo. Yeah.
Aye. So, I do like that aspect of it. I think that's 10, mate. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm hoping it's one you'll go back and revisit at some point in the future.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. It's not one to watch when the kids are about, but otherwise, see, obviously, I've really enjoyed this and Pulp Fiction. Is there another Tarantino film you'd recommend I should watch based off the fact I like those two?
Jackie Brown's good as well.
Jackie Brown.
Yeah, that's good.
Right, okay.
What else has he done?
I've seen Kill Bill, Django as well. Is it in Hateful Eight or something? Is that?
I've never seen that. Let's get Big Kurt Russell on it.
He's not got that many films, does he?
He's got 9 films, I think.
It's not really a
no.
lot for. It's not really a lot of films for how big a name he is and how long he's been around.
I think he always set out to say we always do 10 films. He's done. What do you think? He's done. The Hateful Eight. You were saying.
There's 2 Kill Bills, isn't there?
Yeah, there's 2. Yeah, there's 2. Oh, he's done
I don't know
From
if
Dusk Till
I
Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn's good as well, mate. Class film.
I might have actually seen both of the Kill Bills at the time, because if I watched one, I probably would have watched the second. So I probably have seen, but that was over 10 years ago.
He done. What's that? Inglourious Bastards. He's done that as well.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that a minute ago. That's the war one, isn't it? No, I haven't seen that.
Oh, mate, it is amazing.
Maybe that's a future Seismic special.
He done Death Proof as well, mate, with Robert Rodriguez, I think it was.
He was a director in The Mandalorian.
Aye, that's right, so he was.
No. Yeah, it was Mandalorian. Yeah, that's right.
I remember seeing his name. Aye, so he's done that. Let's get Kurt Russell in it. That's a film about Kurt Russell's a stunt driver. He's a murderer at the same time, man. It's good. So, aye. If I was going to ask you to recommend you a film, mate, I would go with Jackie Brown. But it's not a challenge. It's not a challenge because I know how films are. Yeah. But aye. So that's 2 9s out of 10. 18 out of 20, so that's decent. Pretty good, man.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening going forward then, Colin? Are you got films, or are you going down a different direction?
Well, we talked about maybe going through the Black Mirror new season. I do have 3 films here, but I just thought I'd quickly tap in. What you fancy, and do you think we should go down the Black Mirror route, or do you think we should continue down the film route?
It's up to you, mate. It's completely up to you. We could you can change it if you want to. I mean, it's I don't know. The prep's the same regardless. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy. Whatever you decide, mate. Whatever you decide.
Tell you what,
it's your pick.
We'll leave people in suspense. I'll tell you what my options were anyway. Then we'll leave people in suspense. We can decide off air. So,
synopsis.
Black Mirror.
Oh, you're lagging. Yeah, he's gone.
You want a synopsis? Right. Am I lagging now?
You're a bit better now.
Okay. Right, here's the first one.
Okay.
So stupid AI, it's given me it's taken the title of the movie and it's given me, like, because the title is just like a word, like an actual word, it's giving me like a synopsis of the word. Anyway, after two salesmen find themselves without jobs, they decide, despite their complete lack of technological knowledge, they should work for Google. The friends somehow manage to get internships.
Oh no!
The internet giant. Yeah, we talked about it last week.
You talked about it. You talked about it.
I spoke about it last week. I really enjoy it. It's just a lot of fun, to be honest.
Wilson, isn't it?
Oh, Vince Vaughn and Wilson. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's one I actually show in class sometimes because it's got a lot of good examples of how companies operate. The second one, so I went down more like the kind of although I've got another idea. I've actually got a third idea, so we'll see. I'll make sure I've got these ready. So a security guard abandons, this doesn't sound great for him, abandons his pregnant fiance at the altar 5 years prior. Oh my God. When his ex-partner finds a new successful partner, the character feels threatened and vows to run a marathon to win his ex back and to prove he can finish something.
Yeah, that's fat. Run Fat Boy Run.
Run Fat Boy Run, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Directed
another
by
just
David Schwimmer.
yeah, another film that I think it's just a lot of fun, to be honest. I just went for films that were a lot of fun. And the last one, obviously I love Simon Pegg as well from the Cornetto trilogy. Devastated. I'm missing the names out on purpose because it could give too much
Yeah.
spoilers away. But Devastated so-and-so takes a Hawaiian vacation in order to deal with the recent breakup with his TV star girlfriend. Little does he know, his ex-girlfriend travels to the same resort as him, and she's bringing along her new boyfriend.
I'm going to guess that is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall, yeah. It's
Yeah.
it's a film I've always loved, and it's one I'd always wanted to do on the podcast. So I thought
I
I would
wasn't
just
really sure if he could go down that road, mate, because the actor in it is. No, maybe. I don't know.
You're talking about Russell Brand.
Aye.
Well, Russell Brand's not the main actor in it, and I'm a
That's-
Jason Segel guy, so
Aye. He's aye. I always remember Russell Brand being on the front cover.
I think of Jason Segel and Mila Kunis when I think of the film. So I wasn't even thinking of Russell Brand, but three films I think are a lot of fun. Anyway,
Right.
um,
Cheers for reading
the
it, mate.
alternative option. What's that?
I was saying cheers for reading it, mate. I'll just go with Black Bear. I'm kidding.
I'll decide off here. The other option was to choose the other Tarantino films, but maybe we should just save that for the future.
Aye.
We'll decide off here.
Okay. Right, okay. So a wee kind of round up of the housekeeping then. So thanks for making it this far and to listening to our podcast episode on Reservoir Dogs. Again, if you want to give us some feedback on it, you can do so on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Facebook. You can also drop us a comment, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Also on Spotify. You said, Colin, that we did a wee uptake in Spotify, didn't you?
Yeah, the last time I checked, we only had around 50 followers, but then the most recent time I checked it, we had like between 70 and 80, so it jumped up quite a bit.
That's good.
Don't know why, but I don't know why, but thank you.
Aye, thanks for
78 followers we've got, yeah.
No. So cheers for doing that on Spotify. Thanks for the subscribers. But again, just tell people about us and help grow the channel. Again, you can follow us and you can watch and listen as well on Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and others. Okay. Well, anything you want to say, Colin?
I do tip. I was just giving an example that if you had really poor service, e.g., someone was rude, or you got the totally wrong meal, or you had an extensive wait, there could be situations where maybe you could not tip.
Oh, you've backtracked big time. You've been thinking about that all episode. Right, okay. I believe you, but I don't know if the listeners and the viewers will. On that note, thanks for listening, folks. I'm James. I've probably written an essay on it. Paul hasn't seen this film, even though he
Saying that, Paul probably watched this film in chronological order within the film, if that makes sense.
Good shout.
He probably watched the very end straight after like the kind of start, and then watched. I don't know, but he did it something weird anyway.
Aye. And Colin,
I hadn't seen it, but I have now. That could be my tagline. I haven't seen it, but I have now.
There you go. Excellent. You can do it going forward. Right. Cheers, folks. Thank you.